everyone. Welcome to this webinar about the PGCE programme at Brunel University. The first thing that I'd like to mention is the fact that last year the programmes at Brunel were inspected by Ofsted and we received an outstanding grade in all aspects for both the primary and the secondary IT provision. So if you are due to start here in September, then you'll be working on an outstanding programme. These are some of the things that Ofsted identified make the programmes distinctive, and this is what got the outstanding grade. So I'm going to take you through the distinctive features of the primary, and then I'll talk to you about the secondary phase as well. So the first thing listed there is the high proportion of trainees who actually by the end of their placement, their final placement, reach an outstanding level in terms of the teacher standards. This is what we assess all students against, and we were really encouraged to see how well the students were meeting these standards. Ofsted identified that the students were highly reflective and confident. So they looked at trainee teachers, but they also looked at NQTs, newly qualified teachers, in their first year of teaching to see how they were coping in the classroom, and they were able to talk very confidently about how well they were doing and how they could improve the quality of their teaching. We've got fantastic employment rates. In fact, almost all of the primary students who have just graduated, in fact we had our graduation ceremony yesterday, almost everybody who's seeking employment has secured employment starting September, and in fact some of our students are working in schools now in the build-up so they can get ready for September, and they've started meeting their classes and things. We're very rigorous. Those of you that have been through the interview process already will have seen the rigour of the selection and recruitment process. We involve students and teachers from our partnership schools to be involved in that process. And we also have high numbers of students from ethnic minority backgrounds included in our cohort, which we're really proud about. We ensure that the programme that we deliver is carefully designed, and we involve members of our partnership in that. So we have a partnership management group and we have various steering groups. So that the things that you are learning on the course have been designed by the tutors working here at Brunel and with the teachers in schools that you'll be working in on placement. Ofsted also identified that the personal and professional conduct of both trainees and NQTs ensured that they were able to make a positive contribution to the school settings that they were working in, and this is obviously noted by the high employment rates. Being in this location in West London means that we do have a great variety of schools available to do your placements in, and we try to ensure that you do experience a variety of placements during your time on the course with us, and this we feel prepares you well for your NQT and your career as a teacher. So those are the things that Ofsted identified about the primary course. The secondary course there are many overlaps with, but one of the things that we're most proud about is the first one there, in the fact that we work together with colleagues in schools and across primary and secondary phases here at Brunel in looking at how the programme could be developed and improved. So we use data regularly, we use evaluation, feedback from students and from mentors and head teachers and things to make sure that we're providing a useful programme for you. Again, there's high quality professional development available to students, and this is supported by the mentoring that you get in your school and the support that you have from your mentor during your placements. It was noted by Ofsted inspectors that trainees were able to successfully evaluate lessons and were able to identify the groups of children that had made progress, and they were able to talk about how they would adjust their teaching, their subsequent teaching, to ensure that all groups made significant progress in their learning. Subject knowledge was identified as a strength by Ofsted, which was used successfully to sustain pupil interest, and then as a result there were knock-on effects on successful behaviour management by students and NQTs in the range of settings that they went to. Again, secondary had really successful outcome data, so students were also exceeding the minimum level of practice expected, but also meeting the teacher standards at the outstanding level, which is what we aim for all of our students to do. Again, very many of our secondary teachers have gained employment, and in fact I've got a secondary student sitting here with me, and she's going to talk to you at the end of the presentation a little bit about her perspective of the programme. One of the things that we're proud about is the way that we ensure that the support that all of our students have is personalised. So you will get support that's directed specifically to the needs that you have in terms of subject knowledge, in terms of any particular strengths and identified areas for development during your school programme. So we work together with you to ensure that you're well supported in developing those areas. Okay, so in terms of assessment, there are similar approaches on the primary and the secondary programmes. I'll talk you through the primary one first. You can see here that there are 3 taught modules. The first one is called Professional Studies, and that's assessed via an essay of 2,000 words, and you will submit that in the autumn term. That's a formative piece of assessment, so you'll get feedback on that, and then you will use that formative feedback to develop the next 2 assessments. So the next one is predominantly focused on the core subjects, English, Maths and Science in the primary school, and you work with a pupil who's got special educational needs in your first placement, and you assess the progress that that child makes during the time of you working with him or her. And that is assessed via a poster presentation. There are 30 credits attached to that module. And then the final one is the curriculum enhancements, and next year you'll have a choice of 4 areas: bilingualisms, cultures and identities, mathematics, talk or science, and you'll focus on these areas in this module throughout the year. But on your final teaching placement, you will undertake a piece of research identified by talking to your mentor in school to address an area of the school's development plan that links with your curriculum enhancement area. So you've got an actual opportunity to help your school. So you're giving something back to your school by supporting an area that they're working on to develop. And that's assessed via a poster, a PowerPoint presentation. And that has 30 master's level credits attached to it as well. So in total, you will have 60 master's credits by the end of the programme, which is a third of a master's, and we've got various options for you to select at the end of the course should you wish to convert those master's credits to a full master's. So as well as those taught modules, you've got the teacher standards, which if you haven't already read up about, I suggest that you do, because that's what you're assessed against in school over the placements over the whole year. So that's primary. Secondary looks fairly similar. Again, there are three modules. The first one, again, are the professional studies, and that's assessed via a written assignment of 2,000 words. Again, that's a formative piece of assessment, and that links to the core issues around education. So, for example, assessment, behaviour for learning, planning, special educational needs, those sorts of big issues. The second one is a school-based inquiry, so you have the opportunity again to undertake a piece of research. The first part of this is assessed through a poster presentation, and it's basically your research proposal. So you have to identify what it is you'd like to research, and you have to do a full proposal where you do the literature review, you think about the methodology that you're going to use to collect data and so on. And then at towards the end of the year, again, you'll do a presentation of that research study, and that's assessed via a PowerPoint presentation. Again, there will be 60 master's credits attached to those two modules, so you will also have the option to convert these to a full master's at the end of the course if you wish to continue with your studies. So what does the year look like? So the primary and the secondary phases are follow the same structure. You have a period of time where you're here in the university at the beginning of September. Then in October we'll start sending you into school for what we call the foundation school experience, where you have the opportunity to start doing some focused observations in school, and you will be given various tasks. You'll get to know the school, and towards the end of that block of school experience you'll be working up towards doing full lessons yourself. Then you have a period of time back in January where you spend some time with us at Brunel before going into your second school. So we've got School A for the foundation school experience, and then School B for the development and the consolidation phases. The development is an opportunity to build on the targets and areas of development from your first school, get to know the school, the children, the processes, where the resources are and things, and then you have an opportunity to consolidate that at the end of the course, where you will be expected to be teaching up to the full timetable of an NQT. And then you come back to us at the end of the course as well. There are 2 breaks at Christmas and at Easter time, but please note that there will be university input during the half terms in October and February. So we do recommend that people don't make plans for going on holiday, certainly until you've got the clear dates when you arrive with us in September. So overall, 2/3 of the year is spent in school, 120 days, and 60 days are spent here with us in Brunel. This provides you with a summary of where our partnership schools have been located this year. As you can see, they're very much clustered around West London. This is where most of our schools are, and we will assign you the schools that you'll do your placements in. You can see that some of them are further afield, and this is because we've got particularly strong relationships with these schools, and so we will identify, depending on your learning needs, which would be the most appropriate school for you to do your placement in. Right, I'm going to take you through the selection process for both phases now. You should be applying for teacher training places through the UCAS website. You need grade C or above in English and maths, and for primary in science as well. You need to have at least a 2-2 in your undergraduate degree, and ideally you will have some experience of working in schools in the UK context. We will also expect to see evidence of efficient and effective communication skills. And I expect you'll all know by now that you'll expect to pass the professional skills tests in English and numeracy. And if you haven't investigated those yet, go to the Get Into Teaching website, where there's loads of resources there to help you. There's practice material there and ideas for where you can get more support. So if you haven't done that yet, or if you've had a conditional offer and you're considering, delaying this, please don't. You need to make sure you've met these conditions by the deadline. Okay, so this is for secondary, similar to primary, but there's no need for a C or above in science necessarily, depending on which course you're applying for. And everything else is the same there as in primary. For the primary interview, to help you prepare, you'll be expected to have a recommendation from school, and there's information about this on our website. When you come, there'll be the admissions team who will do some document checks, so you'll need to have your passport, exam certificates, that sort of thing. You'll be given an overview of the primary PGCE programme before undertaking a short written exercise and a subject knowledge audit for maths. We'll be expecting you to give a short presentation about your experience of working in primary schools, and there'll also be a group interview involving a discussion about the issues in primary education with various members of the primary partnership. And it's similar in secondary. Again, you'll expect to have recommendations from the schools. There'll be document checks. A member of the teaching team will give you an overview of the secondary programme, and then depending on which subject you're applying for, you'll have one or more of these activities listed. So a written exercise, a subject knowledge audit, possibly a presentation, and then a formal interview as well, which will include members of the partnership. So I'm now going to pass over to Cathy Taylor, who's going to talk to you about the programme. She's just finished it, and so she's going to give you her perspective on the course.
Thanks very much. So I put together a little bit of information about what the course has really been like for me. Obviously I'm only really able to give my experiences of the secondary course, but I'm sure some of the things will apply for primary students as well. So you can see there in the picture, that's one of the students that I've been working with this year. You can probably guess from the picture that I've been doing the science programme. So I just wanted to talk firstly about why I think Brunel is a great choice for your PGCE as opposed to other teacher training institutions. What I think is great here, they've got a really strong partnership between the schools and the universities. So what you're learning in the university, you're also learning in professional learning sessions in the school. It's all backed up. The same theory and the same practice is being encouraged in both settings. So you're not feeling like you hear one thing here, you hear another thing there, and it's all a bit disjointed. It really isn't like that at all. It's very, very joined up nicely. There's a massive diversity of schools. So some of the schools, as I've put there, more challenging schools, you might hear people say, oh, don't go there, that's an awful school, or anything like that. But honestly, some of the schools that they have to work with here are very, very interesting, and they've got so many opportunities. And I'd really say when you get into the schools, take control of those opportunities. If there's a group that you think you'd really enjoy working with, or an extracurricular activity that you'd like to join in with, take those opportunities, because the schools are crying out for extra people to do things, and if you offer to lend a hand, you'll pretty much always be accepted. And for me in the course, those are the times when I've learned the most. Probably more so than the teaching that I was actually allocated to do in the classroom, because when you take the time to look at an area of your particular interest, it just helps you develop those skills even more. The number one, I think, fantastic opportunity that Brunel gives is as an alternative placement. So we can actually, as part of the secondary programme, we can go to a variety of different schools at the end of the programme. So I went to a special school for the final 4 weeks of my teaching practice, and for me that was a really valuable opportunity to see how the skills that I'd learned through the course could be put into practice somewhere different, and also just to observe how other educational settings are doing what they're doing. And I've put on the bottom there great support from the tutors and staff. You never ever feel like you're on your own. There's always emails, there's always people at the end of the phone, there's always people ready to support you and sending out constant positive emails encouraging you and making sure that you're getting the support that you need in school. So I wanted to put on here as well some things that I wish I'd known before I started, hopefully some tips that you can take in for September. Teaching gets a lot easier, and when you start you might be teaching, I think I was teaching 7 lessons a week, and I thought, how am I ever going to teach a full timetable, because I was spending the rest of the week planning those lessons. And really, I couldn't imagine how it could ever get any easier than that. But honestly, it gets so much easier. And as the workload increases on the course, as your teaching timetable increases, you'll find that you actually just get better at it, so you can do things much more quickly. And I'm hoping now I've started my full-time job that I can actually continue with that, so that I'm not totally swamped with that. Don't search online about PGCE. I put that in there because I'm one of life's planners, so I like to search online and find out about things, and there are so many scare stories out there. So I actually came expecting a really terrible experience, and it wasn't like that at all. It's very much a positive experience. I think maybe some of the people are just looking to get a lot of people looking onto their blog. So honestly, don't search online about it, because it's really, really, really not as bad as people make out it is. The worst children are the most interesting ones to teach. There will always be children who people say, oh, don't go near them. And it's a bit like what I said about the bad schools, if you can say that. The children that are difficult to teach, they might be difficult for a reason. And if you can explore that with them, and find out what the reason is, and maybe get a little bit more background on that child and why they are behaving in the way that they are. Once you can build up that rapport with them and that relationship with them, that's the most rewarding teaching that you can do. The kids that turn up to the lesson and take the notes and say bye and off they go, they're really boring to teach. So seize the opportunity to go for some of the children that nobody else wants to work with, because everybody will be grateful and you'll learn lots. And as I've said all the way along, take all the opportunities that you can. So if there's anything that you think you'd love to do, ask if you can do it. And in my experience, the answer will almost always be yes. But above all, just enjoy it, and yeah, I hope it goes well for you all. I'll pass you back to Gwen. She'll be able to have a look at the questions that you've been asking. And if you want to ask any more questions in the question box, we'll do our best to answer them together.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question coming up, I think. Okay, so the first question is, why do you not offer a part-time PGCE primary programme? Unfortunately, we just don't have the capacity to offer that at this time. In fact, I'm not aware that we ever have. I think it's partly because we, as always, I think across the country and the providers, the actual placements need to be done full time. Yeah, so I'm sorry if that's what you're looking for. Unfortunately, Brunel doesn't offer that at this time. The second question says, what days and timings is the full-time programme, and do you offer a part-time PGCE programme? Okay, so obviously linked to the previous question. The Brunel, in common with many universities, run an 8 a.m. to an 8 p.m. timetable. So some days you'll be starting at 8 a.m. and some days you'll be finishing at 8 p.m. We've tried very much to make sure that you not ever hear from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But you should be aware that there are going to be some days where there are early starts and later finishes. If you are thinking about timing on the course, you should also bear in mind that in schools, I don't know if you'd agree with this, Kathy, but most teachers will be in school from sort of 7:30, 8 o'clock-ish in the morning until probably gone past half 5, 6 o'clock in the evenings. So you should bear that in mind, and hopefully you've spent some time in school so you're aware that certainly that is not, unfortunately, the end of your day either. Planning, marking, assessment, preparation needs to be undertaken probably later on in the evening and probably at weekends as well. So I do recommend that you talk to any teachers that you know to make sure you've got a proper picture of what your year might be like.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for me, I find teaching is really great to be flexible around a family, and I have a young daughter, and it's good to be able to have the holidays and be able to fit that around her. But in terms of the working week, it doesn't fit around school hours, so you should expect to be at school early in the morning until late, as Gwen said.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question is, during the PGCE, how many placements will you need to do? Well, there are 2 school placements broadly that everybody will do, so School A and School B. That's split into the foundation, development and consolidation phases. But as Kathy mentioned was the case for secondary, it's also the case for primary, that you'll have the opportunity to do an enhanced placement. Okay. Yeah? Where for secondary that might be in a special school, it might be in a pupil referral unit, it might be in a technical college, a prison. And the same is true for the relevant phases as well for primary. And that's, you'll have the opportunity to select to do that early in the autumn term, and you'll have the option to do a few days, possibly up to a week, in an alternative setting to decide whether you'd like to do a more extended block of time in one of those settings towards the end of the course, but that's dependent on you making good progress. So as long as you're making good progress towards meeting the teacher standards and you want to, you'll be given an opportunity to undertake an enhanced placement in one of those settings that Kathy mentioned. The next question asks, there are 4 curriculum enhancement options mentioned, the only ones available for the primary cohort. Yes, this is a particular component of the primary phase. So one of the modules is called curriculum enhancements, and there are 4 options. Secondary, you don't have that because you've got your subject specialism already. So your module is the option to do the research study in your school, and that's your opportunity to specialise.
I think she might mean, are there any choice other than the 4 that you mentioned?
Oh, right, no, the four that I've mentioned. So there's a mathematics one, bilingualism, cultures and identities, talk, and science. Those are the 4 options for next year. Okay, the next question is, who chooses School A and School B? We've got a great team of colleagues working in our partnership development unit who do all of the allocations. So they look at your training needs. So it might be that you've had difficulty managing behaviour with the children on your first placement, so they might look for schools that have got particular expertise in that area, or it might be that you've had opportunities to work in a kind of a white middle class area, so you'd like to work in a more diverse school. But the whole, each phase, the programme team works with the Partnership Development Unit to identify where would be the best placement for you. So we organise that for you. The next question is, if you wanted to apply for a PGCE primary for September 2017 start, at what stage do you do the skills test? Okay, well, you can register as soon as the UCAS website opens, which I think will be towards the end of October 2016, possibly early November this year. And then you have the full year, well, depending on when you apply, there will be conditions set. So always the conditions will be relating to your skills test. We're not able to make any unconditional offers if those have not been taken. But it is possible some people came this year with their skills test completed before interview. So as soon as you register, you're able to start taking the skills tests. Another question has come in. Are we ever asked if we would prefer Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2, the longer placement? Unfortunately, you're not asked about that, because we found in the past that students often come in saying, oh, I don't want to work with young children, I'd be much better in upper Key Stage 2. But then actually when they do the placement, they find that they really enjoy working with younger children, or vice versa. No, so we make that decision for you. So if you do decide later on that you've got questions, you can email Lorraine McCormack, who's responsible for the primary PGCE programme, or Sunita Barber, who's responsible for the secondary programme, and their emails are shown there on the slide. Okay. We wish you all the very best, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully soon at Brunel.